Remember back in 2020? Yeah, the whole world kind of shut down, and overnight, education got thrown into this massive, kind of chaotic digital experiment. Well, now that the dust is settled a bit, a really fascinating question has popped up from all that chaos. See, for the most part, the mandates are gone. Teachers actually have a choice now. So what convinces them to keep using all these e-learning tools day after day? You'd think it's all about the fancy new software, right? Or maybe the size of the school's budget. Well, as one study found out, the answer is probably not what you'd expect.
So to find the answer, first we gotta appreciate just how huge this situation was. This wasn't just a few schools trying out some new app. We're talking about a global event, a great, big, unplanned experiment.
To give you an idea of the scale, let's just look at Saudi Arabia, which is where our source study comes from. In 2020 alone, they ran over 35 million virtual classes. Think about that. This wasn't some small trial run. This was a full-scale emergency deployment. And that created the perfect laboratory to figure out what actually works and what really doesn't. Okay, so how do you even begin to find the answer in all that data? Well, researchers decided to play detective and investigate what really drives a teacher to stick with these new tools for the long haul.
They zeroed in on this key idea called continuance usage intention. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it basically boils down to this. Once nobody's forcing you to use the new tech anymore, do you still want to? That's the real test of success, right?
To crack the case, the researchers went straight to the source. They surveyed 233 university teachers and lined up a bunch of potential factors, let's call them our suspects, to see what was really pushing teachers to stick with eLearn.
Now, before we get to the big reveal, let's talk about the suspects everyone assumes are the culprits. You know, the ones that always get the most attention and the most money. Yep, these are the usual suspects. First, technical readiness, having the latest and greatest tech. Then, financial readiness, pretty simple, having the money to pay for it all. And finally, process readiness, making sure the tech actually fits with how things are already done. It all sounds logical, doesn't it? Better tech and more cash should equal happier teachers. So here it is, the million-dollar question. Did all that spending on servers, software, and getting things to fit, did any of it actually make teachers want to stay? Well, this is where the story gets really interesting. The results were surprising. When the researchers crunched all the numbers, the data told a story no one was expecting. The answer was a flat-out no. Those usual suspects we just talked about, you can see them here with the dotted lines, turns out they had no statistically significant impact on a teacher's choice. None.
Let me say that again, because this is kind of a game changer. The quality of the tech, the size of the budget, how well it fit in, none of it was a key driver. So if it wasn't the tech or the money, what on earth was it? The real winners? It was all about the people. First up, teaching staff readiness. In other words, how confident and skilled did the teachers themselves feel? Second, administrative support. Did the school leadership actually have their back and encourage them? And third, and this is a biggie, extrinsic motivation. That's just a fancy way of asking, does this thing actually make my job better and my life easier? And it wasn't even close. When they ranked these three factors, one shot right to the top. By a pretty wide margin, the number one motivator was that extrinsic motivation. The single biggest driver was whether teachers felt the tool was genuinely useful. It wasn't about the tech itself, but about the value it gave to the person using it. So what does this all mean? What's the big lesson here for education? Well, it suggests a huge shift in where we should be putting our focus. The study's own conclusion puts it perfectly. It says the people in charge need to build policies that support these human factors. It's not about just buying the next shiny thing. It's about building a supportive world for the people who actually have to use these tools every single day. So here's the takeaway. If you want technology to actually stick, you've got to empower people. First, build their skills and confidence through training. Second, make sure leadership is in their corner, actively cheering them on. And third, and most important, prove the value. Don't just tell them to use a tool, show them exactly how it's going to make their job better and more productive. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. In our big rush to digitize everything in education, have we been focusing on the wrong things all along? Maybe the future isn't about the fancy tools we buy, but about how well we empower the people at the very heart of it all.